Welcome back to Hard Corners, one of three streamings or a family stream known as Fearlessly Made from the City of Wayne. I am Waddell Hardy, and if you like the content, hit that like button, subscribe, and give us your perspective or view of what we're discussing here. Today's topic is accountability. What is accountability? The fact or condition of being responsible for what part a person plays, what you play in a given situation or relationship. Accountability. When do you start learning about accountability? You should technically be learning about being accountable as a small child through the course of your nurturing process with your parents or whomever is the person responsible for raising you into a well-rounded young person or adult person. I'm seeing too often a lot of people's inability to accept accountability for the things that they say or the actions that they take or lack thereof. Well, you're going to find one of the most important things about a person is having the ability to take ownership of whatever wrong you may be participant in. Whether it was a wrong selection of words, choice of action, choice of place of interaction. It's too often that I'm seeing people not having the ability to accept that they're wrong and say, yes, I was wrong, and then not give a follow-up excuse behind why they were wrong. At the end of the day, you have the choice of what you're going to say or what action you're going to take. And you have to understand that whatever action you take or whatever statement you make, some have consequences to them. My grandmother told me years ago in a conversation that we had that you have a lot of times when people will say something negative to somebody because they're angry and then come back and apologize and say, I didn't mean to say that. My grandmother said to me one time, she said, nah, you meant it when you said it, so don't apologize for it. So you have to really be conscious and selective about what you're going to say and when you're going to say it and how it's going to play out after it's said. Same thing as what actions you take. When you did it, you know it was something that you wanted to do, accept responsibility for what happens afterwards. Take accountability. I've seen everything from people getting into fights and arguments, but nobody wants to take ownership into what part they played into it, especially when it went dark. It happens in relationships. People get into these arguments or in these situations and they say and do things through the course of this relationship, then come back and apologize. I didn't mean it. I didn't mean to do that. I didn't mean to say that. Yeah, you did. The problem is you may not have taken the time to weigh everything before you took a course of action so that you wouldn't find yourself in a position where you had to come back and apologize. Because the thing about an apology, but a lot of people don't understand and don't put weight to, is the point of an apology is to never do the same thing to the person a second time. Never doing or saying the same thing to the same person a second time. And then stand on that. That shows the authenticity and the sincerity of what it is that you were trying to be right about or get right about. Where you made your error. Where you took accountability where you were wrong. Because an apology without accountability is just words. That's all it ever is. It's just words. Because the same person who did the wrong or said the wrong will turn around and do it again and come back and apologize and again. And what does that accomplish? You're still doing the wrong to the person that you did in the first place. When you're out here in these streets and how you act out here in these streets, you have to take accountability for what comes back. If you get behind the wheel and you know you've been smoking weed and drinking and you might be slightly impaired and you get into a traffic crash, what part did you play in that? You drove while being impaired. Now that could have cost somebody their life, or it could have cost them their livelihood. Take accountability. If you did something wrong in a relationship, whether it's a friendship or an intimate relationship, take accountability where you were wrong. Stop deflecting and giving excuses as to why you did what you did. Because you always have the option, if it's that bad or that uncomfortable, for you to step off, walk away, leave it alone, keep on moving. But if you decided to take the act and get yourself involved into something that you find yourself in a position where you are wrong, man up, woman up, take accountability, say, yes, I was wrong. Stand on that. And then it's upon you at that point, depending on what the value of the situation is or the value of the relationship is, or whether or not you're going to proceed forward and clean yourself up so you don't find yourself in a position again where you're making the same bad choices.
Captain Kirk, message from Starfleet Command.
Accountability. Accountability. There's no space for shifting blame back and forth. Because if you felt like whatever was going on wasn't cool or you were uncomfortable with it, you had the choice to step off, to walk away, as opposed to taking the follow-up action behind it. Because every action has a reaction. Choices have consequences at times. They have results and then they have consequences. And when they have consequences, you have to be big enough to accept accountability, take ownership in what your part in it was, and not be in a position where you're continually trying to deflect what you did wrong onto somebody else. That's my position. I welcome your comments. I look forward to talking to you soon.